Alright, my friends, but hi, I really need your help. I'm about to tell you something, and I truly hope
That.
And whenever someone opens with "don't judge me," I already know we're about to enter questionable decision territory. So grab your coffee or your iced latte because we're sophisticated but chaotic. Welcome to Lying Whispers. My friends, this is Scarlet Veil. And today I'm telling you a story that proves you can ruin 5 years of stability over the Y. Now, let me read this tea. She's 28 years old. Let's call her Madison. She had been with her boyfriend, Ethan, for 5 years. 5 years of shared. Ethan was solid, loyal, reliable, the kind of man who remembers your coffee order and actually shows up when you're sick. A walking green flag. But Madison had a problem. Ethan drove a modest sedan. A practical, quiet, sensible car. The kind of vehicle that gets you from point A to point B without drama. And she hated it. Not because it was broken. Not because it was unsafe. But because it didn't turn heads. Let that sink in. She said stepping out of that car made her feel invisible. Like no one noticed her. Like her life looked ordinary. And ordinary in her mind felt like failure. Now pause. If your self-worth depends on strangers swiveling their necks in a parking lot, we need to talk. But Madison didn't see it that way. She started comparing. Other girls being dropped off in loud, flashy, customized trucks. Music blasting. Windows tinted. Attention guaranteed. She didn't envy the men. She envied. Ethan proposed after 5 years. A thoughtful proposal. Intimate. Genuine. She said yes. Posted the ring. Got the congratulations. But inside, something restless was growing. She described her relationship as too calm. Too predictable. My friend's peaceful is not the same as boring. But some people only realize that after chaos slaps them in the face. One night, feeling particularly dissatisfied, Madison downloaded a dating app. Just a look, she told herself.
Sure.
And people walk into bakeries just to inhale the scent. That's where she met Jason. Jason had confidence, charisma, and a heavily modified, lifted pickup truck that roared like it had unresolved emotional issues. Photos of him leaning against it. Videos of the exhaust growling. Comments full of flame emojis. Madison was intrigued. They started messaging. Flirty banter. Late-night conversations. Compliments that fed the exact insecurity she hadn't admitted she had. Jason told her she deserved excitement. That she didn't look like someone who should live a small life. Notice something? He didn't promise commitment. He promised intensity. And intensity is addictive. The first time she met him, he picked her up in that truck. Music loud. Engine louder. Heads turning probably because the vehicle sounded like it was auditioning for a monster truck rally. But to her, it felt cinematic. She said she felt powerful stepping out of that truck. Important.
Scene.
I had to pause when I read that. Because here's the uncomfortable truth: if noise makes you feel valuable, silence will feel like rejection. Madison began lying to Ethan. Work dinners that didn't exist. Girls' nights that were actually late drives with Jason. And every time she climbed into that truck, she felt like she was stepping into a different version of herself. The bold one. The admired one. Meanwhile, Ethan was finalizing wedding details. Let that irony breathe for a second. Madison started comparing everything. Ethan's calm voice versus Jason's bold energy. The quiet sedan versus the roaring truck. Security versus stimulation. And she chose stimulation. The affair escalated quickly. What started as ego validation became emotional attachment, or what she thought was attachment. But adrenaline can masquerade as love if you don't know the difference. Then came the plot twist. A missed period.
A test.
2 lines. Silence. Madison was pregnant. And suddenly, the roaring engine didn't sound so exciting. She told Jason, expecting what? Heroic transformation? He froze. Said he needed time. And if someone needs time when responsibility knocks, you already know the ending. A few days later, she discovered something worse. Jason wasn't single. He had another woman. A long-term situation he had conveniently failed to mention. So not only had she betrayed stability, she had gambled it on someone who wasn't even exclusively hers. Ethan found out soon after. Not because she confessed bravely, but because secrets unravel. The confrontation was short. He asked if it was true.
She couldn't deny it.
He didn't scream.
Didn't beg. Didn't create drama.
He simply ended it. Cancelled the wedding. Walked away with dignity. And that silence? It crushed her more than yelling ever could. Madison was left pregnant.
Alone.
Jason slowly faded into inconsistency. Promises of support. Minimal follow-through. The truck still roared. But not for her. She described seeing Ethan months later at a grocery store. He looked calm. Grounded. Different. He greeted her politely. Not warmly. Not cruelly. Just done. And that's when it hit her. She didn't leave him because he lacked love. She left because she lacked gratitude. She confused attention with value.
Confused noise with depth.
Confused adrenaline with devotion. She gave birth to a baby girl. Jason showed up for photos. For appearances. But stability? That came from Madison alone. Now she's a single mother. Working longer hours. Facing the consequences of a decision that lasted months, but reshaped her entire life. And here is the question, my friends. Ida? Was she selfish? Absolutely. Was she immature? Without question. But is she beyond growth?
No.
Because sometimes the loudest lessons come after the engine dies down.
So I want to know.
If you were Madison, would you have resisted the temptation? If you were Ethan, would you ever forgive? Have you ever mistaken intensity for love? Because sometimes the quiet sedan takes you further than the roaring truck ever will. My friends, this is where the glamour fades and reality walks in without knocking. After Ethan left, Madison said the apartment felt different. Same couch. Same kitchen. Same framed engagement photo still leaning against the wall.
But the air? Heavy.
She described the silence as loud. And isn't that poetic? She chased noise and ended up haunted by quiet. The first trimester hit her hard. Morning sickness. Fatigue. Emotional spirals at 3 in the morning when there's no one next to you and your thoughts get bold. Jason's involvement? Inconsistent at best. He texted. Sometimes. He said he'd figure things out. Translation, he hadn't figured out anything. And then came the second blow. Madison learned that the other woman, yes, the one Jason conveniently forgot to mention, had found out about her. Not from him. From social media. Because nothing stays hidden in the digital age. Suddenly, Madison wasn't the thrilling secret anymore. She was the complication. Jason started pulling away. Less availability. More excuses. Work trips that seemed suspiciously frequent. And hair race where I need to pause. Because this is the moment when fantasy finally cracks. The man who roared into her life with volume and flash, he didn't know how to stand still when things got real. Meanwhile, Ethan never contacted her again. No drunk texts. No emotional ultimatums. No, I can't live without you. Just dignity. And sometimes dignity is the harshest mirror. Madison said she kept expecting him to fight for her.
Let's sit with that.
She betrayed him, carried another man's child, and still expected pursuit. My friends, the audacity is fascinating. But here is the nuance. When someone gets used to being loved unconditionally, they sometimes assume that love is indestructible. It isn't. Around month 5, Madison ran into Ethan at a local farmer's market. He was laughing. Actually laughing. That detail shook her. Because she realized something terrifying. He was healing. Without her. He wasn't devastated forever. He wasn't frozen in heartbreak. He was moving forward. And that hurt more than anger would have. She said she wanted to apologize again. He listened politely. Nodded. Said, I hope you're okay. And that was it. No bitterness. No reconciliation. Just closure. Jason, on the other hand, showed up to exactly 2 doctor's appointments. Spent most of them on his phone. When she asked about commitment, he said he didn't want to rush into labels. Labels?
Sir.
there's a child on the way. This is no longer about Instagram captions. By month 7, she stopped expecting him to transform. The roaring truck still passed her apartment occasionally, but he didn't come upstairs. Madison started preparing alone. Crib assembly with YouTube tutorials. Late-night budgeting spreadsheets. Selling her wedding decorations online. That image stayed with me. A woman packing away and used centerpieces while organizing baby clothes. It's cinematic, but not in the way she once imagined. Labor came early. Jason arrived at the hospital late. Ethan didn't come at all, and why would he? Madison gave birth to a baby girl. And here's the turning point. She said holding her daughter rewired something inside her. For the first time in months, she didn't feel small. Not because people were looking at her, but because someone needed her. And that kind of significance doesn't require headlights. Jason took pictures. Posted a filtered photo. Wrote something vague about new beginnings.
He didn't move in.
Didn't step up fully. Just hovered at the edges. Madison finally understood. She hadn't fallen for Jason. She'd fallen for how he made her feel temporarily larger than her insecurities. And when the illusion dissolved, she was left with responsibility. Now she works full-time. Sleeps in fragments. Shows up. Alone. And here's the part that surprised me. She doesn't blame Ethan anymore. She doesn't even blame Jason. She blames the version of herself that needed strangers to validate her worth. Growth is quiet. Accountability is humbling. She wrote, I traded stability for noise. And noise doesn't rock a baby to sleep at 3 a.m. That line? That's clarity. Now, let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever sabotaged something good because it felt too calm? Have you ever mistaken peace for boredom? Have you ever wanted to be admired more than you wanted to be loved? Madison's story isn't just about cars. It's about ego, about comparison culture, about confusing visibility with value. If you were Ethan, would you ever consider forgiving her years from now? If you were Madison, would you try to rebuild or simply accept the lesson? And if you were Jason, well, we want to unpack that psychology today. So tell me, my friends, was she reckless? Was she insecure? Was she just human? Comment below. My friends, I need to know what you would do in this situation.